Welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. Stay informed with quick, easy-to-listen summaries of our latest articles, perfect for when you're on the go. No reading required. Subscribe for free at mercola.com for the latest health insights.
Hello, and welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. I'm Ethan Foster, and today we're examining some important questions about neonicotinoid pesticides and how they relate to crop yields, pollinator health, and the broader agricultural landscape. Joining me is my co-host, Ilara Sky. We're going to explore research findings, controversies, and the influence these pesticides might have on our environment and food production.
Thank you, Ethan. I'm glad to be here to discuss this topic. In many farming regions, neonicotinoids, commonly called neonics, have become one of the most frequently used pesticide classes in the history of agriculture. Despite their popularity, recent studies reveal that their benefits for major crops like corn and soybeans may not be as significant as often advertised. It's a complex issue with implications for farmers, wildlife, and regulatory processes.
Precisely. The widespread adoption of neonicotinoid-treated seeds has its roots in the 1990s, when they were introduced as a promising alternative to older insecticides like pyrethroids, carbamates, and organophosphates. They offered broad-spectrum pest control and were considered less harmful to human applicators. However, over time, concerns emerged about environmental impacts, most notably on pollinators. According to multiple peer-reviewed studies, neonics can threaten bee populations, aquatic insects, birds, and potentially entire ecosystems.
That's right. The challenge is that many farmers routinely use these treated seeds as a preventive measure, rather than in response to an identified pest problem. One study from Cornell University reported that in corn and soybeans, 90% to 94% of the time, neonics showed no economic benefit. Those results indicate that farmers might be paying for treatments they don't necessarily need. Yet, industry-funded studies suggest that yields can increase anywhere between 3% and over 70% for certain crops.
This discrepancy leads to questions about methodology. Academic entomologists often conduct trials in typical conditions without artificially boosting pest numbers, while some industry-sponsored research plants trap crops to amplify pest pressure before testing. One side's data may depict real-world scenarios with moderate pest levels, whereas the industry approach focuses on worst-case situations to highlight product benefits. This tension has, in fact, led to serious fallout for certain scientists.
Indeed, there's the prominent example of Louis Robert, an agronomist from Quebec. In 2018, he lost his job after pushing to release research that concluded neonicotinoid seed treatments made no significant difference in corn and soybean yields. His superiors delayed publishing, and after repeated requests, Robert ultimately sent the findings to a media outlet. Almost immediately, he was fired by the Quebec Ministry of Agriculture.
That controversy sparked significant backlash in Quebec, with petitions and protests calling for his reinstatement. Eventually, the provincial leadership apologized to Robert and brought him back to his position. He later authored a book about the entire experience. This episode illustrates how strong the resistance can be when evidence contradicts established commercial narratives about neonicotinoid benefits.
And Robert's story is not isolated. Other scientists, such as Scott McCart from Cornell University, have described intense scrutiny after releasing their findings. In McCart's case, he conducted a risk assessment for the state of New York and concluded that, for corn and soybeans, neonics rarely yield measurable economic gains. When he presented his work, industry representatives challenged his methods, even contacting his university dean and raising concerns about the data.
It shows that, beyond the science, there's often a complex network of economic and political factors. Corporate representatives and some researchers argue these pesticides are crucial for preventing catastrophic outbreaks. Others counter that, if a pest doesn't materialize in large numbers, the additional cost and environmental risk might not be worthwhile. After all, multiple studies have concluded that modern corn and soybean varieties are more resilient than ever, able to withstand moderate pest pressures without significant yield loss.
Exactly. Another angle is whether states or provinces should place limits on neonics. So far, 10 states in the U.S. have enacted some degree of restrictions, with 4 more, Connecticut, Arizona, Massachusetts, and Hawaii, considering measures in 2025. In Canada, Ontario has already restricted neonicotinoid seed treatments. It's telling that corn and soybean yields, they're continued to increase after the restrictions, indicating that the bans didn't hurt overall production.
That finding raises a major question. Why are so many farmers still planting treated seeds if these studies suggest minimal yield advantages in many situations? Some economists and social scientists propose that farmers view neonics like an insurance policy. It might not pay out most years, but they prefer the security of having it just in case. The counter-argument, however, is that this insurance has considerable downsides, including the documented harm to pollinators and other organisms.
Right. According to the academic research, pollinators are at risk not only from direct neonic exposure, but also from residue carried on dust during planting. Studies in Indiana, for example, found that a large percentage of honeybee foragers encountered dust containing lethal levels of neonics during corn sowing. And though some companies have developed seed coatings to reduce dust, environmental and ecological concerns remain central to the ongoing debate.
Meanwhile, industry representatives from Bayer, BASF, and others assert that neonics are a vital resource. Their position is that farmers who lose neonics would have to revert to older, harsher chemicals, or spray more frequently. From their perspective, the shift could raise costs and create new environmental issues. However, emerging pesticide classes like anthranilic diamides could provide an alternative, reducing the need for neonics over time.
Precisely. But there's another overlooked factor: the genetic advancement of modern seeds. Researchers like Christian Krupke from Purdue University emphasize that today's corn and soybean varieties are inherently tougher. Breeders have improved cold and drought tolerance, as well as pest resistance, making seeds far more capable of thriving under stress. In such a landscape, the added benefit of neonic treatments can diminish unless you're facing an unusually high insect population.
Given these considerations, some experts recommend improved risk assessment tools and real-time pest monitoring over routine prophylactic use of neonics. Instead of automatically treating every acre, farmers could identify when specific pests pose a real threat. Additionally, there's discussion around offering better crop insurance so that farmers who choose not to treat seeds prophylactically can still have economic protection if a pest outbreak does occur.
Indeed. It comes down to balancing ecological cost, farm profitability, and food security. Studies out of Europe, particularly the EU ban on certain neonicotinoid seed treatments in 2018, have shown stable or improving yields since restrictions were placed. Likewise, Ontario's restrictions did not negatively affect overall productivity. These examples suggest that widespread neonic use might be less essential than previously thought.
Exactly. It appears that real-world evidence is increasingly challenging long-held assumptions about the necessity of neonics for staple crops like corn and soybeans. With nearly a century's worth of improvements in breeding and pest management techniques, some specialists argue it may be time to reevaluate the default approach of treating virtually all seeds before pests even show up.
And that reevaluation extends into policymaking. As these states introduce or debate new legislation, the role of transparent research becomes paramount. Scientists in both the public and private sectors need to share their data openly. That way, decision-makers and farmers can accurately weigh the pros and cons, rather than relying on incomplete perspectives or fearing professional repercussions for reporting unfavorable findings.
In the end, the conversation is about more than just numbers. It's about ensuring food security, preserving biodiversity, and respecting the well-being of communities that depend on agricultural success. So, as more data surfaces and more regions consider restricting neonics, people will keep asking, are these pesticide treatments truly worth it? Current evidence suggests that the answer may not always be yes.
That's a crucial takeaway. By focusing on genuine pest pressures, improved insurance policies, and newer technologies, farmers can potentially lower costs and reduce environmental harm without sacrificing yields. Continued research, free from interference, will help clarify exactly when and where neonics are needed, if they are needed at all. It could herald a new chapter in farming, one that's more targeted, sustainable, and attuned to the health of ecosystems.
And that wraps up today's exploration. We hope you found this discussion on neonicotinoid pesticides informative. Thank you for tuning in to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. I'm Ethan Foster, and with me has been my co-host, Alara Sky. We'll be back soon with more insights into health, agriculture, and the interconnected systems that shape our world. Until next time, stay informed and take care.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.